again today on the program. I am Jumoke Michaels. Banji is also right here on the program. Banji,
Yes,
good morning.
Jumoke, this is what we know how to do best, and it's good connecting with our viewers. Yes, this is a fresh edition of the program Summit. My name is Banji Busari. So much to talk about. Of course, the polity is very, very active politically. Everybody has become a politician on the streets, in the buses, everywhere, in homes, all discussing the recent judgment given by the Supreme Court of Nigeria. That's a respect of the last presidential election. Okay?
All right, so we know that last week Thursday, the Supreme Court ruling put to rest the most intense battle that Nigeria has ever encountered when it comes to an election. And President Bola Tinubu's administration was confirmed in spite of so many issues that the opposition brought into it. But we're going to be looking at that on the program this morning, just dissecting the judgment and looking at it from different angles. We have joining us today a political analyst, a public affairs analyst, Mr. Ademola Adegoke is joining us, and he's also a journalist.
Oh, a very good morning to you, Jumoke, and to Banji as well, and to our viewers at home. A very good morning. Thanks for having me.
We know you are a friend on this program, and each time we say you are here with us, we appreciate your company. Let me start by saying that the affirmation of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the winner, or as the authentic, legitimate winner of the 2023 presidential elections has a sort of conferred legitimacy on his administration. And by that ruling, he has 4 years to lead this country as the president of this country. Now, let me start by asking, that pronouncement, do you see it as genuinely confirming legitimacy on his administration, from your point of view?
From my own point of view, yes, it does, because the contention before was that he was not validly elected as the president of Nigeria, and the Supreme Court, is the highest court in the land. And you see, for me, as a people, we've got to respect our institutions. If we have institutions and we do not have faith in those institutions and we do not respect those institutions, then what results from that is chaos and probably anarchy. So as for me, the Supreme Court, the affirmation by the Supreme Court should put paid to all agitations, to all contentions on whether he is validly elected or he has not been validly elected. And this is not the first time. This only looks, maybe in recent time, I need to say this, because those who were of age during the 1979 election, the two leading candidates,
Shehu
Shagari and Obafemi Awolowo, it was almost this intense. It's just that maybe because of the political majority that time, it was not as divisive as this turned out to be. But the battle too was very, very intense. And what was the battle on then? It was about what constitutes, 2/3 of 19 states. We were having 19 states then, and then Shagari scored 25% and above in 12 states, and then he couldn't score 25% in Kano, which would have made it the 13 states. And then if you divide 19 by 3, 19 is not easily divisible by 3. You understand? So if it were maybe 21, you can say 14 would be 2/3 of 21. But this is 19, and Shagari only scored 12 in 12 states, and not up to 25 in Kano. So there was this so much legal battle, and Chief Richard Akinjide, the lawyer to NPN and Shagari, came up with the 12-2 so-called formula, and he said that you didn't need to win 13 states because 13 would have made it so easy. He now said no, it should be 12 2/3, not 12 25%. And people were saying it should be 13 states, but no, Akindele said it should be 12 2/3, not 13. So how do you now divide 2/3 of a state? And at the end of the day, the Supreme Court ruled that it was actually 12 2/3. So the Supreme Court validated Shagari as the president. So it's not the first time that we are having this type of legal battle. But like I've said, so once a process must have a beginning and it must have an end. And again, we have a nation. The nation does not belong to politicians, it belongs to every one of us. And once the Supreme Court has ruled, the best thing is for us all to rally around, because if the president fails, the nation fails. If it succeeds, the nation succeeds. That's the way I see it.
All right. Thank you for that submission. But still talking about that ruling, so many issues on morals also came up, along the line, and people were shocked that the Supreme Court did not bother to check or maybe investigate, as a court is required to do when most of these issues come up. What is your view along that line?
The way you and I we look at issues is not the way it should be looked at legally. Maybe one thing that people have failed to realize is that the way the law is, even if a judge were to be a witness at a crime spot, he's not going to base his judgment on his own, on his own experience. He's not going to base his, the best the judge would do is probably to recuse himself from that case, to say, no, I'm recusing myself. I cannot judge this matter because I will be biased. But if he doesn't recuse himself, if for any reason the judge does not recuse himself, he cannot base his judgment on what he saw personally. He will base his judgment on what the litigants have brought before him. And once the litigants have not been able, maybe, or in this case, what do you call the one that is bringing up the case now? The legal, that is the one that is suing the other person. It has just.
That's the PDP.
No,
and the Labour Party.
but there is a legal term for it.
The appellant.
You have the defendant and you have the one that is for a criminal case, but for a civil case, it's not the prosecutor. But we know that in this case we have the PDP, OP, and LP on one side. Then you have
the appellants anyway.
You are the once you have not brought your case, you understand. If you have not brought up your case in a way that that conforms to what the legal process expects, the court will not help you to state your case. And this is what has happened. So you and I may look at it, and that is why in so many instances you can even find a case that this case is too clear. It will, but at the end of the day, the court will see it differently because the litigants have not stated the case the way they should. So in this matter, we know, that the way the court looks at issues is quite different. And if you look at it, for me, without playing the spokesperson for anybody, if you look at it, at the court of first instance, it was 5 judges,
that's the appeal court.
That's the court of first instance in this case. You will discover that it was all the 5 judges in the court of first instance, reasoning the same way. At the court of final jurisdiction, which is the Supreme Court in this case, all the 7 judges also reason the same way. That must tell us something, that probably maybe much different from the way you and I will look at it. Maybe, the law is not the way we look at it.
Okay, let's look at it. The presidential candidate of PDP, that's Atiku Abubakar, in his reaction to that judgment, said he was highly disappointed at the outcome of that case. Same for the presidential candidate of Labour Party, that's Peter Obi, saying that Nigerians were shocked at the outcome. Now, if a court, now my question is, if Supreme Court is supposed to be the final,
the court of final jurisdiction
in the land, what should the people expect at such courts? I mean, as in, should people now be able to? Should people now write us? Should now believe that the court has not met their expectations?
No, it is.
Does that make them to be incompetent, or what?
No. I'm going to. You see, it is within the right of any litigant to express disappointment on the judgment that has been passed on his case. It is within the right. But in doing that, you have to be as civil as possible. And then listening to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the civility that one will expect of someone that is supposed to be a statesman as he is, I have not seen it in a statement. Like I've said, it is within his right to express disappointment. But you can say, I am not satisfied with the judgment, but I respect, I respect the Supreme Court. And that is what I expect, him to do as a statesman. But then, I have said that, I said it earlier on, that if we have institutions that we do not respect, it will be just too bad. It is this same judiciary that is being dragged on the floor now that has given some, judgments that are pro-opposition in the past.
Okay, well, then would you say, from judging from what you have just said now, this same Supreme Court, aftermath this judgment, do you see the Supreme Court coming out much stronger or becoming weaker in terms of public perception and reputation?
Supreme Court judges are equally not talking well about this.
Okay, now I think there was a unanimous. So what does it become? Have they become much stronger after this judgment or weaker?
No. She has said that some Supreme Court judges are not. They are not. I mean, have they expressed their view on any
on this issue? I think there's a unanimity. No, that unanimity. The Supreme Court judge that actually reacted was talking about representation on the Supreme Court composition. That's the judge's composition, not about this. I think there's unanimity. There's unanimity of
there is your view
about the
judgment.
But I'm saying that
are they coming out stronger or weaker? You see, like I've said, the Supreme Court has one focus, and the focus is the law, and the law. You understand? It is not what you and I sit, when we sit down maybe in front of, maybe under a tree, and we are getting ourselves spotted and we express our views. The only focus of the Supreme Court is to do justice according to the law. According to the law. And what does the law say, about issues that have been resolved by the Supreme Court? And like I've said, you see, the Supreme Court, it's not all the time you agree with the Supreme Court the way I'll give you an example. Take the case of Bayelsa, for example. The current governor of Bayelsa. It was a different person that won the election. It was, and the APC was ruling then. But the Supreme Court felt that because the deputy governorship candidate had a certificate issue, and because it was a joint ticket, the man was about to be sworn in the next day, and the Supreme Court ruled that they should lose that seat, and that's how PDP became, the ruling party in Bayelsa. in Zamfara, because of the process, because the law will tell you that you don't build something on nothing, because the process of nominating all the candidates, in Zamfara was wrong, that the people that nominated the candidates were not supposed to be the ones that should nominate the candidate. Meanwhile, APC swept the polls in Zamfara. So, Assembly, House of Rep, Senate, and governorship, and because of that, APC lost. Personally, I would have said, no, the Supreme Court should have ordered a rerun. You understand? That the Supreme Court should have ordered a rerun, but they didn't.
Okay,
So, it's not all the time you agree with Supreme Court. They have their, and for me, their focus is let's do justice according to the law.
All right, so would you say that this is intense and a bit different because of the involvement of the youth this time? Because the heat on this election was so high because of the level of youthful participation we had this time around, which has never, been recorded, that the youth participated so strongly. So would you say that these kind of scenarios we are experiencing is because of their participation this time?
Yes, the youth became more vociferous, in this last election than we had before. But for me, you understand, there is a difference between propaganda and the real fact that we have on ground. There is a difference. And God knows I'm not a card-carrying member of any party. You see, for me, when you look at the last election, yes, the youth, they were very, very, they were involved, they were active, but what was the level of their, mobilization? I'm not talking of just, being on the social media alone. The election does not take place on social media. It takes place in polling booths. So this same youth that we are talking about, look at, I give you an example. Let's take LP, for example. LP, no doubt, was very, very popular in Lagos and maybe some other states in the south, and southeast. How many people came out to vote here in Lagos? How many people came out to vote in Kano? That is what you should ask. So, yes, you can be involved, shouting, but you should take a step further. I want to see a situation that as the youths have been involved, I look forward to the youths, being, agents of change, being change agents in our land. But for you to be change agents, you need to go beyond just, hyping issues in the social media. You must go, beyond that to ensure that, yes, you do remobilization, and on the election day, people go out to vote for your preferred candidates.
Yes, so many issues have actually been raised concerning that judgment. The appellants are insisting that the issue of qualification and eligibility should have been properly looked into by the Supreme Court, and that INEC is failing its duties in the screening processes to have allowed certain things to actually go. That some, particularly the candidate of APC, shouldn't have scaled the hurdles if INEC had actually done its job properly. What's your view about the role of INEC in all of this?
Have you? I don't know whether you have followed, whether you knew that there were instances that the INEC disqualified some candidates, and the court ruled that INEC does not have the right to disqualify any candidate. Do you know that?
That's a party.
It's an internal affair.
So you see, except we change, and that is what I am saying. The law is the law. If you have a bad law, it is the law. You will only need to go and change that bad law. But to say that you should disobey the law because it is a bad law, now saying that INEC should have done, does the law confer that duty on INEC? That is the question we should ask. And I'm actually surprised about the position taken by some so-called, senior lawyers on this matter. Because we know, I'm not a lawyer, but even as a legal layman, I know that, once that is the law, you accept to go and change the law. You cannot say that INEC should go beyond its call of duty to go and be prognosing into matters that it does not concern it. But if tomorrow the law is changed and it confers that duty, you understand? So INEC will now be checking, from its duties if it doesn't do that. But as it is today, I don't think that the law confers on INEC the powers that we want it to exercise.
But what would you also say about the electronic transmission of results, which INEC had promised Nigerians failed to deliver?
It is
on that
too
election?
bad that INEC promised Nigerians that it will transmit results electronically, and it did not now fulfill that promise. But do you know that even according to the law, it has also not committed any offense according to the law? What the law says is that the collation should be, through the what do you call it?
Manual.
Form EC8, and that voting should be done, accreditation should be done through BVAS. And once you have conformed to that, INEC, the transmission of results is to take a step further towards making the electoral process transparent, and it will have been an icing on the cake for INEC. And I think that the cause of this whole controversy is that INEC failed to keep its promise. But if we want to stand by the law again, you understand, the INEC has not committed any offense.
But why did they spend so much money? Why did they make so much promises?
So that is the issue. So that is the issue. We can only say that maybe now, because there is that move, that going forward, maybe we make electronic transmission of results mandatory. But as it is today, electronic transmission of results is not mandatory.
Okay. Now the issues of election petitions, tribunals, and all of that, constitutionally should be concluded within 180 days of the election.
Yes.
Now, there is a suggestion for reforms, for electoral reforms, for constitutional reforms, that before the swearing in of any supposed winner of election, that all issues concerning that election must have been concluded, so that whoever is sworn in will not have to wait for any further affirmation.
Do you know that I'm not going to subscribe to that on one condition. Rather, what I will subscribe to, I have a one-off solution to this whole thing. And the one-off solution is that other countries are embracing technology in the electoral process, and that the more of technology we embrace in our electoral process, the better for us. There is, in fact, this whole idea of having to go and line up and vote on the election day, being in the sun, is becoming, archaic and antiquated. You understand? We can embrace technology that will ensure that people vote electronically, and if we embrace electronic voting,
but that's the same process that we have just rubbished.
No, it's not.
Technology.
That's transmission.
But that's technology. That's introducing technology into
for
the process.
For me, it should even be easy for you to stay in your house and vote. So we are going beyond IREF. We are talking of transmission now. So, but because if you now say, coming back to your question, if we say that we should conclude all electoral matters before 180 days, that means that you will shift back, the time of election. Maybe you will have to be conducting your election maybe 9 months before the expiration of the current regime. And where is that done? Because we have the president-elect waiting in the wings while the incumbent is there, for maybe almost a year. Let's look at what, the issue that presidents, you know, in the country at the same time. That is not too good for the polity, as far as I'm concerned. So rather, I will suggest that we should have, you know, electronic voting that will put paid to all this controversy about the sanctity of our electoral process.
This time around, this election, we had the highest number of court cases, over 1,600 from the result, from the what do we call it now? From the rating that was released. Do you think that we can get to the point where somebody wins and then we agree that the person won and stop going to court?
And it is when we get to the process that even nobody, you won't even dare doubt the process, because it will be so clear, and that is, you know, by embracing technology, you know. But then I need to quickly say too that politicians will also be always be politicians. Even in the US, we as error proof as we may say that their system is, we know what happened with Trump. You know, up to today, he still believes that he won, that he defeated Biden, and he has people believing him. So you will always have such, but maybe we can reduce the volume. Maybe we can.
All right.
I think we have to
Thank
go.
you.
We have to go. We need seriously. We need to thank our guest.
Thank you so
Mr.
much for joining
Ademola
us.
Thank you
Adegoke,
too. Thank you
for
too.
your time.
Thank you too.
He took part of law. He took part of and they combined it to make a very good submission
We thank God.
on today's edition of the program.
All right, that's our program today. But before we leave, we still have another segment of the program featuring one of the developmental strides that the Lagos State government has taken in Lagos, and that's talking about the Blue Line Rail. I'm sure you will love to see what it's going on now and the level to which that project has gone.
Oh yes, I'm looking forward to the day I will also be able to travel by rail. That's a Blue Line Rail. That's one of the infrastructural achievements of the current administration of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. I would say kudos to him. He's actually moving on. It's Greater Lagos rising. Yes, we are seeing the evidence of good governance in Lagos State. And we wish him the very best. Others have, from what he has told us, he said red line, green line, blue line, and all of them. We are waiting all of that. But until then, my name is Banji Busari.